agenda today, we will be covering Meta Creative really in three parts. So first, some year-end basics, our community boost best practices, taking a look at a couple ad submissions that came in from some of our participants here today, and finally some Q&A at the end. So let's jump into some basics. So I'm sure you're hearing the term year-end all morning. I've probably said it 15 times already myself. But what is it and why is it a big deal specifically on Meta? So being associated with nonprofits and social organizations in general, I'm sure we all know that the end of the year is game time when it comes to fundraising efforts. And nearly a third of all donations coming in through the month of December alone. So during this time, people are celebrating the holidays. They might be feeling a bit more altruistic as well as getting their financials in order for the upcoming tax season. So whatever the reason is that someone chooses to give in December, we do know that they're a bit more open to the idea, and there is a huge opportunity for success for your organization if we can harness the power of year ends through Meta ads. So although year-end giving is high across a variety of platforms, there are a few incentives this year for Meta ads that may make them a prime choice for your organization this year. So firstly, Meta is placing a huge priority on reoccurring monthly giving. It has announced that they'll match $7 million across organizations for new monthly donations. So this really shows a great opportunity to not only bring in new donors, but try to sustain them long term. And this is a point that can be used in your ad creative. So Meta has done matching initiatives before, but with so many advertisers that match can go pretty quickly. But it is a point that you can use in your ad creative to help bring in some additional donors. So in addition to the match, processing fees for on-platform fundraisers will be waived, and there really is a proven track record of success on the platform, with $7 billion raised so far just on on-platform donations. That doesn't even include our traditional conversion campaigns. So it's really no secret that Meta can be a great tool for organizations, and it can add a touch point to your existing audiences or help you cultivate new ones. But with all of these positives, there are a few negatives for our fundraising efforts. So with all of these benefits and increased overall spending in December, there is a lot of increased competition on the platform. So not only are we competing with other nonprofit organizations, we're also competing with for-profit companies that are looking to capitalize on Black Friday sales, holiday shopping, really any holiday initiative you can think of. If there's an opportunity for a business of any sector to be on Meta, they will take it in the month of December. So with this influx, ad costs can increase, meaningful impressions can be a bit harder to come by, and when compared with for-profit organizations and retail, sometimes it can feel like we're selling a product that doesn't necessarily have something tangible coming to someone's door. So with all of these factors, both positive and challenging, how do we create success for our organizations when running Meta ads? And the answer really is through creative. So let's take a look at some of our best practices to help you on your creative journey this year. So in general, regardless of the time of the year, we suggest keeping copy short and sweet. We're really asking users to give up their leisure time on their phones to pay attention to what we have to say. We're buying placements on their feeds that they didn't necessarily choose to follow. So we need to be conscious of attention spans and deliver our message in a way that is powerful, but to the point. Ads should be time-based, especially for conversion campaigns. Giving users a deadline helps increase urgency and gives your audience a reason to give now. If you have them, adding in concrete monetary values can really help add tangible value to an individual donation, as well as encourage them to give more than maybe they originally had in mind. So in creating the anatomy of your ad, including strong headlines, clear calls to action, emojis, and using video can all help you stand out among a very similar feed. So all of this sounds really easy in practice, right? So keep a message short, have a strong CTA, and use a video, and everyone will donate. If it was really that easy, we would not need to have this workshop today. Creating ad copy and creative that appeals to your audiences and meets them at every level of your marketing funnel is a steep learning curve. But hopefully you can add just a few of these tips into your efforts this year and increase your return on ad spend as you embark on this Meta ads journey. So one thing to keep in mind when creating year-end specific ads is that your organization's story and impact is your number one tool. curating individual stories of impact from those you have served through your programs, year over year statistics, all time statistics, anything that really shows the growth of your organization and tangible impact can inspire your past donors to donate again. And using your individual story gives users a reason to donate to your organization and not the 20 others that may have a similar focus who are also targeting them during this time of the year. So on the visual front, we find that having year-end specific image and video is a great way to go. So we know that not every organization has a huge bank of imagery to pull from, but something as simple as adding the Giving Tuesday logo to one of your best performing images alongside your fundraising goal can differentiate campaigns from one another. And it can also decrease the risk of donor fatigue too early in the month when we're hitting the same people with several different campaigns. Overall, we really want these campaigns to feel like an event. If we're going to stand out, we really need to show a strong graphic front. So I mentioned earlier that when competing with for-profit and retail, it can sometimes seem as if we're selling something that has no product. So using some transaction-based messaging in the month of December can really help to bridge that gap. So by transaction-based messaging, what are your donors getting out of giving to your organization? So is it exclusive stories of impact? Is it being a part of your community and feeling like they're a part of something bigger? Or is it something actually tangible, like a t-shirt, postcards that show that they have made an impact on your organization's mission? If these are things that your organization offers, throwing that in an ad can be a huge incentive during the month of December. So all of this is to really find a way to ground a lot of really large mission ideas that can feel a little bit nebulous into more digestive items that can help us be really more competitive. So when advertising on Meta, what we need to do is be approachable, urgent, and meet our audience where they are. So here are a few examples of these best practices put into action. So these are all year-end focused ads that use time-based language, highlight a match if your organization has one, and focuses on impact statistics or how the user can actually make an impact on your mission. So although these ads do follow best practice and have a good chance of resonating well on Meta, there's still no guarantee that one particular ad will be the winner every time. So in every campaign we run on Meta, we test a variety of different messages, creative types, headlines, formats, and the reason is really to give Meta several options as we're exiting the learning phase. So we suggest running at least 4 ads per set in each campaign, and varying message types for each type of audience, and testing as many angles as we can. I always say if I had $1 for every ad that I thought would be the one and bring in 1 million donations and completely went the opposite way, I would be a very rich person. So making sure to vary the ads you are running in each campaign gives us the best chance of one of them working out in our favor. So now we can take a look at a couple ad submissions from some of our awesome attendees today to see what they did well and what we could possibly improve through some optimizations based on these best practices. So both of these ads were submitted to us by PEN America. So thank you so much for participating. And the great news is that these ads have a lot of really good aspects. While we're reading, I will just go over a few of them. I really do like that they're emphasizing the need and the purpose of these ads are very clear. There are really strong calls to action in viewing their reports, and their headlines are really good as well. So in this second ad, I also really like leading with a question in the main copy, and I think the graphics look good as well. As far as suggestions for optimizations for these ads, if you're still reading them, you may notice that they're pretty long. So long copy, I do think has a place on Meta ads, but not all the time. So I think long copy can work really well for users who are already very familiar with your organization, and are more likely to give your ads a bit more time and effort in getting through this much information. So someone like a past donor or an active follower on Meta may take the time to read these, but the average user who may not be familiar with your organization might find it a little bit overwhelming. So what I would do is shorten these to a sentence or two in order to leave some information unsaid so users can go to your site and find that information for themselves. I would also remove the hashtags. So we as a best practice generally don't use too many hashtags aside from the occasional Giving Tuesday. The main reason for that is because ads don't actually show up under the hashtags you're using because they don't behave like a normal meta post. So the audience that you want to reach is going to be targeted through the ad set and not necessarily through hashtags. I think hashtags work great for organic posts, but for ads, it'll just help us cut down on the character count. So in the same realm as removing hashtags, I would also remove any links from the main ad copy and use the CTA buttons instead. That way we have more accurate reporting and it cleans up the look of the ad just a bit. So with these suggestions, these are what our new ads look like. I'll give everyone just a second to read through both of them. Awesome. One thing you may notice is that there are actually no revised headlines because I would leave those as is. I think they're really strong. Overall, I would just shorten the copy up and use the same introduction for both ads because they have a really strong hook in the very beginning. But with this approach, we're leaving information for users to find, and that can inspire them to spend more time on your site once they get there. Awesome. So I know we're running through a lot of information in a short period of time today, and I want to make sure we have plenty of time for Q&A. So we can review a few key takeaways, and then we will dive into some Q&A. So first and most importantly, without strong ad creative, we won't be able to stand out among the crowd during the influx of December advertisers. I may be a bit biased in this one because I really do love ad creative, but I think that you can find the most perfect user that loves your mission and is ready to donate. But if they don't see strong messaging, they may not make it to that final step in your funnel through meta ads. If you can tell your organization's story with strong calls to action, heartstring holiday messaging, and highlighting what makes your organization special, there is a huge opportunity to help reach your fundraising goals. The way I quality check ads is to see if they would be compelling to me before setting them live. So, working with nonprofits, no one knows your mission and the amazing work being done better than you. So, we work with these organizations for a reason, and being able to capture the sentiment of your work this year end in a way that inspires you will likely inspire your donors as well. So, meta ad creative, especially during year end, can be a tough nut to crack, but hopefully, you gathered a few tips today, and we will absolutely be rooting for your campaign success this December. So one resource on the bottom here is the Meta Ads library that I would like to share. You can find it just by Googling Meta Ads library. And this is a place where you can find all active ads currently running on Meta. So what you can do is search through them by keyword, industry, special ad category, or really anything that you're thinking of. And what it'll do is provide a list of actively running ads that may help guide you as you create your ads and look through inspiration. This is a really great resource to see what is out there this year end, and I highly suggest checking it out if you haven't heard of it before. It's a very cool resource. And of course, if you are interested in Meta Ad services, we would love to work with you to explore your biggest opportunities to drive revenue and growth with Facebook and Instagram ads for your nonprofit. You can book your free Meta Ad review, and you'll have the opportunity to talk with our team of experts about your approach. We can review your ads and help develop the right approach to Facebook advertising for your nonprofit so you can get the most out of your Meta Ads this year end. So we'll also provide you with resources and more information about how we can help. So we would love to hear from you. I'm sure we have a poll coming if you are interested in exploring how we can help you drive more donations and higher return on ad spend. And so I will let that populate here or by scanning the awesome QR code. And I believe we have some time left for Q&A. I do see one coming in from Brian here about why we don't use a direct link and what the call to action button is. So I'll go back to that slide and actually show you what we're talking about here. Okay, so when we're talking about calls to action buttons, I'm not sure if you can see the cursor on my screen. Oh yeah, you can, awesome. So this learn more button down here, that's what we're talking about when it comes to calls to action. And so instead of actually putting the text link in your ad copy, you can link out to your website that way. It's also important for reporting because through Ads Manager, we get the actual number of times that button was clicked. And so it's pretty helpful both in cleaning up the look of your ad and for accurate reporting. Is a Bangladeshi organization eligible for fundraising on this platform. Yeah, I believe so. So, to the best of my knowledge, Bangladeshi organizations are eligible to fundraise on the platform, as long as you have something called charitable giving tools. So, that is something you set up through your Facebook page, and you can do on platform donations that way. If you don't want to do on platform donations, you can also just run a regular conversion campaign straight to your website, and it'll work that way as well. I do believe for all of the Meta year end matches, though, if you are looking to do to get a piece of that 7 million in recurring matches, that is US only. But everything else, I believe you should be fine. I see Victoria is going to be running your first campaign this year. That is so exciting. I hope you found some tips that'll help you on your journey this year. Awesome. Is that easy to create? Yeah, I think easy is a little bit subjective when it comes to ad creation. But when you are looking to create ads, really what you'll need is to create a business manager, create an ads manager, and Meta will kind of walk you through the rest of the steps that way. When you are creating your ads, adding the call to action button is pretty simple, I would say. Awesome. So feel free to throw your questions either in that Q&A section or in the chat for anything meta ads or creative. Also, I saw Catherine's comment about all of your various pets, and I'm very jealous. Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chloe. This has been so cool. I mean, we have plenty of time for more questions. So, does anyone have anything that's, kind of a specific challenge for you when it comes to meta ads? Anything like preventing, for those of you who haven't used it, like, has there been something that's like prevented you from using it? Or is it just like you don't know exactly how to get the ads up? I guess, like, yeah, for those of you who it's your first time, you know, what are your challenges? Or, Chloe, what would you recommend to someone who is trying to run ads for the first time?
In trying to run ads for the first time, I think your first step is to identify who your audience is. And so I don't normally suggest jumping straight into donation campaigns. I like to say it's a lot easier to ask your friend for $5 versus walking up to a stranger in the grocery store and asking them for $5. It just doesn't normally go as well. So starting with an engagement campaign to really resonate with your audience, and you can check out your demographics, see what's going on. I think that's a great place to start. A lot of those first ads can really be bringing attention to your mission and the great work that you're already doing. And I think that's a great place to start, is just by running an initial engagement campaign, reaching out to your current followers. It's a great place to start.
So, really cool. Well, we have still plenty of time. Now's your chance. Any last questions? Keep them coming in the chat and the Q&A pane. Cool. So, I mean, for year end, like, what do you think nonprofits should do beyond year end to help them run better ads year round as well?
Yeah, one thing that I see that's very common is we think we can jump on to meta ads in the middle of the month of December and expect them to run perfectly. So meta ads really are a year-round priority, I think, in being able to build your audiences, making sure we have a solid base to reach out to. Um, when it comes to meta ads throughout the year, the options are really endless when it comes to using ads to fulfill any of your organization's goals. Whether you do events, you can run ads straight to your Facebook events. You can run engagement campaigns throughout the year. And then by the time that we get to year end, your base will be ready to go. So I do think that starting early is the best way to go. So maybe for next year, if you start maybe 4 or 5 months in advance, that'll give you a really great opportunity to do well on Meta.
Yeah. I think it like you said, it's just about building that audience year round too. And even just like after year end is over, um, like I don't know if anyone was in our opening session today, but Michael Goodroom on our team was going into how important it is to also run thank you campaigns. So for everyone that engages during year end and also donates, like it's really, really a great opportunity to actually run thank you ad campaigns so that people feel acknowledged and seen by your organization. So I think that's like a big opportunity to kind of keep the momentum going. And then like you can then run more ads throughout the year that are really around audience building and driving people to your page and getting them to sign up for your resources or just getting their email address so that you can contact them across multiple channels. Like those types of initiatives are just so valuable. So Jody asked, should we have our meta ad point to our Facebook landing page or our website? Or our website, which will have donation buttons embedded.
So that's a great question. And the awesome part about Meta is that you can do both. So a very large part of our strategy comes down to A/B testing. And so what we really want to do is give Meta as many options for fundraising as possible, and we can turn off whatever's not working. It also comes down to your overall organization goals, I think. So it's like, do you want your base to donate to one individual fundraiser, or do you want them to make individual donations? I think that's a little bit up to you. But the awesome part about Meta is that you can definitely do both. You can run those in two different campaigns, see which one does better, and evaluate for next year.
Cool. Ariel asks, with boosted posts, I know these are not the same as ads created in Ads Manager. I've had to deal with Meta not letting the ad run. I know this can be complex and has a lot to do with specific language you use being flagged by Meta's algorithm. Yeah, Chloe, what
Oh,
suggestions do you
yeah.
have for
The
Ariel?
meta rejection. This is something that we do deal with definitely. One thing that does make it difficult in a boosted post versus running something in an ad campaign is that I don't believe you have the option to manually request a review. And it's just a little bit of a more complex process. So, what we recommend is actually pulling your organic post into a campaign in Ads Manager. That way, what you can do is request a review if your ad does become rejected. You have a lot more control over the audience that you're targeting. And what you can also do is set up a political disclaimer if that's something that you need. I'm not familiar with what your organization's mission is, but if it is coming up as like politically flagged, what you can do is verify your identity, and that way you'll be able to run those ads in Campaign Manager because I know that can be a little tough. Getting a disclaimer is the best if you are dealing with any sort of political rejections.
All right. And Angela asked, does time matter? Time of day that they're scheduled. I'm thinking this is maybe organic social posts or ads. Chloe, you
It
can.
seems like ads, like if we want them running in the middle of the night, is the way that I'm interpreting this. Feel
Gotcha.
free
Yeah.
in the chat if we're not interpreting this correctly, but maybe the answer is maybe to me. And so the way that you can tell is in when you're looking at your ad campaign, you can go in and see what time of day your impressions are coming through, and you can go in and see the breakdown of what results are coming through during each time of the day. And I don't think every organization and every campaign is going to have the same answer in that. Because maybe your donors just happen to be up at 1 a.m. and that's when they want to donate. That's when we want to hit them with ads. And so I do think that's something that comes with optimizations as your campaign runs longer and longer, is that you can see what exactly is going on. We don't do a whole lot of time based ad campaigns. And the main reason for that is because if there's no one on Meta at the time, impressions aren't going to serve. So no matter when we're reaching people throughout the day, it still may be beneficial.
Cool. And I guess just to also give us more transparency. So you run these ads, right? How often should you be checking back on them to see how they're performing? And if you do want to make any changes to optimize them or, just kind of like ad budget, what do you recommend?
Great question. So the short answer is about once a week, and the long answer is once a week, but I would not make too many changes consistently all at once. The main reason for that is if we do make too many changes, it can almost reset the campaign in the algorithm, and we go back into the learning phase. We check on our campaigns just about every 3 days, and we'll make changes about every 7.
Cool. And like, I guess for what are some like key performance indicators, or like really what should people be looking at to see if their ads are being successful? And I think we went into a little bit of this in the last session, but just kind of want to hear for those who have just joined too.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of, and I know this may not be super helpful, it's a little bit of a complex answer because it may depend on your organization. So if you are very established in running meta ads, also I see a question here about what does meta ads mean. We're talking about any ads that run on Facebook or Instagram. They're owned by the same umbrella now. So meta ads, Facebook and Instagram. So I do really think that it can depend based on your campaign and based on your organization. Across the board, even if we are running a donation campaign, that doesn't mean that we should ignore engagement happening. That doesn't mean we should ignore comments just because that's not necessarily the goal of the campaign. So I really think some KPIs come down to overall engagement, your impression versus reach ratio, to make sure that we aren't hitting the same people over and over again. Your frequency, which is again hitting the same people over and over again. And I know I'm throwing out a lot of terms. Very sorry in advance. But really, any sort of hard metric where people are actually taking an action on your ad is something to pay attention to.
Cool. And so when you're working with one of our partners, like what like return on ad spend do you look for?
We always root for a 3 times return on ad spend. During Giving Tuesday and during our December campaigns, that can be a bit higher. But it also, again, depends on the organization. So, like, if you have been running these ads for years, we would expect a little bit of a higher return versus somebody who this may be your first campaign. We can't necessarily go out the gate expecting to completely blow everything out of the water. But in general, I think a 3 times return on ad spend is a pretty good metric to look for.
Cool. And then Ariel followed up on her comment earlier. So she said that they're youth-led and youth-serving organization that focuses on creating civic engagement and career development opportunities for
Okay.
racialized and newcomer youth. So that their content often gets
Okay.
flagged as political, employment related, or discriminatory
Yes.
if we make references to race and age.
So, fun tip for you specifically, I wouldn't say anything with employment because that will get you flagged for pretty much for jobs pretty quickly. So instead of any like employment jobs, I would say like opportunities or like professional or any opportunities for development. So anything where you can kind of avoid saying in a job, otherwise it'll get flagged. And because it is civic engagement based, I would really recommend that you apply for a disclaimer as well.